This is a republic, if you can keep it, with Mark Brewer and Jeff Timmer.
I'm Jeff Timmer. Welcome to the
I love the inflation
episode of A Republic, if you can keep it.
And I'm Mark Brewer. There's been a summer snowflake sighting in Wisconsin as Donald Trump stalked out of an NBC interview when his lies about election fraud were challenged by NBC's Kristen Welker.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this trap.
While Trump was attacking mainstream media as crooked, his allies at CBS were proving that they fit that description by firing longtime 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley for calling out management efforts to spin stories on behalf of Trump.
Two of the things in the email include, can we make the protesters look more violent? The other thing was Renee Good's car. You need to describe her as driving toward the officer. This is not what you see on the video. The video showed that the officer wasn't standing in front of the car and she wasn't driving toward him, but that's what the president said about that, and that's the way she wanted it described.
Just days after proclaiming, quote, "I don't care about Americans' financial situations," end quote, Trump gave the Democrats yet another campaign commercial. I think this one is evergreen, saying that he loves the inflation.
Sir, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning. Could that be a
No, I love it.
for
The numbers were
Republicans
great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation.
Which he said and uttered on the same day where his administration released numbers showing inflation had hit a 3-year high and almost double what it was the day he was inaugurated in 2025. Adding to the out-of-touch aura from the White House, he's reaching out to the average American as only an 80-year-old billionaire can do. First, by attending a basketball game in New York City where the cheapest tickets cost thousands of dollars, saying he doesn't care if other people can't go, that's just life, they can watch it on TV. And then by offering a 250-year commemorative gold coin for $11,999, the bargain price. The Michigan sales tax on that trinket, think of it, it would be $720, but that includes free shipping.
Entertainment for Trump's 80th birthday, the UFC concussion contest on what used to be the White House South Lawn, has cost taxpayers upwards of $60 million, plus thousands of hours of staff time, according to the National Park Service. Add to all that, the $2 million or so it costs taxpayers almost every week for Trump's weekly golf trip to Florida, and you've got enough money to gift 6,000 or so Americans with those Trump 250 commemorative coins.
Battle for control of the closely divided Michigan Legislature is well underway. Democrats need to flip 4 seats in the House to regain control there. Republicans need to turn around 2 seats to win control of the state Senate. We'll get into the details of the battle for control of the legislature with Kyle Melinn, editor of the insider newsletter MIRS News.
More on A Republic, if you can keep it, after these messages.
When most of us think about polling, the focus is on those campaign polls telling us which candidates are winning. But the most important polls are for businesses, local governments, and nonprofits assessing the needs and wants of their customers or constituencies.
Those are polls that guide policies and lead to institutional success. Those polls have to get it right, which makes the choice of a public opinion research firm critical. Epic MRA has been trusted for more than 4 decades to get it right. Our clients have included school boards, statewide nonprofits, corporations, as well as the candidates and news media who rely on us during political campaigns. Whether it's just a couple of questions or a full in-depth survey, we are here and ready to help.
You can reach us at epicmra.com.
We see seashells down by the shore, 8647, who could ask for more? But Donnie sees the photo and he starts to wail, it's a death threat, send the bum to jail.
Are you looking to stay ahead of the curve on Michigan's public policy landscape? Look no further than Michigan Information and Research Service Incorporated, or MIRS. MIRS is your go-to source for comprehensive, nonpartisan news and analysis on Michigan's government and public policy. But that's not all. A MIRS subscription also gives you access to our powerful legislative monitoring and tracking tools. Stay on top of every bill, amendment, and vote with real-time updates, detailed reports, interactive committee transcripts, legislative analysis tools, and more. Whether you're a policymaker, lobbyist, or just a concerned citizen, MIRS keeps you informed with daily updates, exclusive interviews, and detailed reports. Subscribe today and gain access to our extensive archives. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead with MIRS. Visit mirs.news to learn more and subscribe. That's MIRS.news. Don't miss out on the insights that matter most.
Every elective state and federal job will be filled in the November election. While the spotlight will be on the races for governor and U.S. Senate, there's a lot more at stake, including control of the state legislature. There's no one more knowledgeable about the state legislative races than where we have our conversation today, and that's with our visiting pundit and chronicler of Michigan politics, Kyle Melinn.
Kyle is the editor of the MIRS report, the go-to source for Michigan political insiders, providing in-depth coverage of all state government and politics. He's been with MIRS for 25 years, since 2001, dating back to the last days of the John Engler administration. In addition to his daily reporting, he is also a political columnist for the Lansing City Pulse.
Well, welcome, Kyle. Welcome back. It's always great to have you. You are one of the most knowledgeable and detail-oriented reporters we know in Michigan. And we wanted to spend some time with you today because you're really expert on what's going on in the legislative races, Senate and House. And you're famous for your top 10 list of races, elections, districts most likely to flip. So we wanted to work our way through that with you, both in the House and talk about the Senate as well. So you just want to take it away, and we'll jump in as necessary.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. It's great to be back on with you guys, Mark and Jeff. And yeah, we did our first top 10 House seats most likely to flip. And we were talking about the State House. The State House right now is a 58-52 majority for the Republicans. You can argue if Karen Whitsett's really a Democrat, but that's we're not going to quibble about that too much. And so we took a look at all 110 House seats, and what we've been working on at MIRS basically for, the better part of a year is our election guide and almanac, where we take a look at all of the candidates who are running for office. And I'm talking all of them. We've got up to 550 candidates running for Congress, State House, State Senate, and we have done short bios on every single one of them. It was an exhaustive piece of work by myself and my staff, but we were able to take a look at least the background of all these people and kind of use that as reference in our rankings on who has the ability to be successful in these congressional and state representative races. So as we took a look at the State House, 58 Republicans, 52 Democrats, we were really struck by the results of this election in the 35th Senate District. I mean, the fact that Shedrick Green was able to win with 19.46 points is astounding when you consider that Donald Trump only lost that district by a percentage point in 2024. This was not a case in which there was just this mad rush of people in, let's say, Saginaw to come out and support Shedrick. This was an instance where we had precincts in Midland Township or, Tittabawassee Township or areas that were bright red just 2004, just a year and a half ago, which were now either blue or very close to it. And to me, that signals the possibility, a very strong possibility of a blue wave. If you take a look at 2008 when we had the last blue wave, or 2006 where we had Democrats make significant and surprising advancements in the state house, we saw a situation where seats that we never thought possible actually came through, and the Democrats picked up seats like in the Upper Peninsula or Sanilac County. And it left us all wondering, God, how is this even possible? So what we're seeing here is that Republicans who are in a base district of at least 57% have to be revisiting their reelection. They got to be sweating it. They got to be working it, because this isn't a real good backdrop for them. The only saving grace that I think the Republicans do have is that there are very few instances where we have open districts, that a lot of these districts that are likely to flip are held by incumbents, and it is just naturally tougher to beat an incumbent as opposed to an open district. So they do have that working for them. There's really only one seat that is currently held by a Republican that is going to be open, and it's going to be competitive. And other than that, there's going to be a lot of incumbents that the Democrats have to beat. But with that, I'm just going to tell you that of our top 10 seats most likely to flip, for the first time that I think that I've ever done these before, 9 out of the 10 were Republican flip to the Democrats. 1 through 9, Republican flip to the Democrats, because that's what happens in wave elections, and that's what we could be looking at here. Look, 2006, gubernatorial year, second midterm for President George Bush. The country was at war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Republican gubernatorial nominee was a gazillionaire, something that we could have here again in 2026. Republicans had 58 seats. I mean, the similarities are almost eerie. And what happened is the Democrats kicked their butt and ended up with 58 seats. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I mean, shoot, if past this prologue, it's not looking very good right now for the Republicans.
You brought up 2006 and 2008, and those cycles are etched in my mind like I stared at the sun too long. When I close my eyes, I can still see the results from my day. That's when I was at the helm at the Republican Party, and sitting in those rooms leading up to the election, watching our poll numbers absolutely and utterly collapse, and watching we knew the wave was building, but how far inland it was going to sweep was absolutely no one saw coming. You're right. There was the entire thumb, Sanilac County, Huron County, Tuscola County, Macomb County, Gratiot County. Mike Huckleberry, if folks remember him, it was like, it's the kind of elections in waves like this. That was when, as a Republican, when the wave was against me. I've also been there in 2010 or in 1994 or 2000 even, when there was, at least in the state legislative level, waves benefiting Republicans. And it is it's the kind of thing where the caucus leaders get calls and the candidate says, "Hey, I won," and the leader says, "Who are you and where are you from? Because we weren't even trying to win your district. We didn't put any money there," and they can still win these elections in these kinds of climates.
Yeah, I'll just add that those waves were pushed along by Jeff's gerrymander. I just want to add that for the historical record.
Well, there is that. It didn't turn out so well for me in 2006 and 2008, now did it?
Some ho-hum elections, the 2002, the 2004 elections, there were a couple upsets here and there, but by and large, it was pretty status quo. And I don't think this town and Michigan just in general has seen or felt a wave election in a while. And so we haven't become accustomed to what the real possibilities are when you see real results, when you see not just polling, but you see actual results and what is happening in what should be a swing district and it becoming a complete landslide. You don't really fully appreciate what could happen. And Mark and Jeff, I know you guys were there, you experienced it, but people like Mark Corvo. I mean, I was in the Republican Party headquarters and people were like, who is Mark Corvo? What is this? Terry Brown winning, John Espinoza, the reddest of red areas in Sanilac County, winning elections. It was just incredible to watch. And unfortunately for Republicans, this is the kind of thing you got to be worried about right now. So I can go through some of the districts that I'm looking at right now. The first one being the 54th House District, which is in Oakland County, and it's one that kind of touches on Republican and Democratic areas. But the Democrats have a great candidate in Sarah Pounds, who comes from Oxford, which is kind of the Republican area, a very relatable working mother of four. And the Republicans have a couple candidates, one who used to be a public official, worked for the school board or served on the school board, then had to resign for personal reasons. And he didn't do very well when he ran in the first place, but he's coming back. And then they've got kind of this 23-year-old go-getter that is working, but the wind is certainly blown in his face. And so I think Sarah Pounds is probably in a very, very good position over there. And then I'm moving over to Calhoun County for our number 2. Calhoun County, this 44th district, has a 52% Democratic base last we looked. And Steve Frisbee, who beat Jim Hodsma, the incumbent at the time, by 79 votes, is going to be facing a rematch. And this time Trump isn't on the ballot, so he doesn't have Trump to help him. Hodsma's won this district before, and we think that Hodsma has a pretty decisive edge in this one. And so that's our number 2 most likely to flip. And then number 3 is we've got Jan Mano, who is somebody who the Democrats really feel like is a relatable mother who's been in the community of Jackson for years and years. Her husband has been in the community for years and years, going up against Kathy Smoltz. Again, one of these districts where the Democrats, if they had maybe some better candidates in the past, could have had some better success, but did not in 2024 and 22. So I would give them an edge on that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you mentioned the Battle Creek race where Frisbee and Hodsma are running for 10th or 11th time against each other. It feels like this has been going on for several cycles. And, when you look at the environment, what's going to be happening at the races above them too. I mean, there's competitive congressional races happening there that are also going to impact these legislative races, as well as the statewide races. And so there's a synergy that forms in these districts. There's a lot of overlap with the competitive congressionals in these. I think we'll see as you go through the rest of your list.
Yeah, and so the rest of the list too, I'm going to the 27th House District, which is basically downriver. Riley Linting is going to have a rematch against Jamie Churches. Churches is back, and she is not happy about having lost last time around. And if you watch the legislature, you know where the problem districts are when the speaker is giving plum legislation to you and then pushing it, right now in June, so it can get some headlines. Riley Linting and Carl Bonak in the Upper Peninsula, for example. These people are getting some prime legislation, Frisbee as well. The most recent one is having to do with relieving medical debt. And this is a package of bills that Sarah Anthony was actually championing in the state Senate. And she actually passed these bills out of the Senate in March and pushed them over to the House. And from all appearances, the House has just basically put those bills on a copy machine and just took out the Democrats' names and put Carl Bonak and Steve Frisbee's names on them, and is now pushing them. And Matt Hall said yesterday about it, well, I think we can probably reach a deal on them then. So, if Matt Hall sees some advantage to having these people on bills like that, then he's probably sensing the same thing we're seeing, that these people are probably in trouble. Another name on the list, number 5, is State Representative David Martin from Genesee County. And I put him on the list because that Genesee County district abuts the 35th Senate district, and the voters in the one aren't terribly dissimilar from the voters in the other. I mean, we're talking primarily about blue-collar, retiree auto workers who were enamored by Trump and were part of kind of swept up in the MAGA movement. And now these districts now are decidedly going the other way. I've been following House districts now since 2001, and that Genesee County area, that kind of outside Flint type thing where you're talking about Grand Blanc and Davison and those areas, they do have a history of flipping due to the political winds nationally at the time. And they are fine flipping on their state reps, whether it's Sandy Hill or Pat Lockwood or Dave Robertson or Paul Scott, who got tossed from office in a recall. They're not above going through and tossing out incumbents. So while that race there, the 68th district, may not be high on the list of the caucuses, they're high on my list because I've seen historically how those districts act. So I have that one on there, followed by the Bonac seat in the 109th. And I did that one, the 109th district, which has historically been Democrat. I put that one below just because I'm just worried, or not worried isn't the right word. I'm wondering where the bottom is as far as the drop off on Democratic enthusiasm in that district. I've just seen steadily over the elections that seat become more and more and more Republican, and I just don't know where the bottom is on that. And maybe we haven't hit the bottom. Maybe the bottom was 2024. I don't know, but that's why Bonac is 6th and not higher on the list as maybe some would expect. And then from there here, the number 7 on the list is the Jamie Thompson seat, again downriver. This has been an area as well that is fine supporting Democrats in swing districts or in swing years, wave elections. I think back to 2008 with Deb Kennedy, who wasn't necessarily the best candidate, but she was able to win anyway because it was a great year for Democrats. So in she came. And this time, the Democrats do have a very good candidate, the supervisor from Brownstown Township, which is has a plurality of the population in it. So I mean, you could do a lot worse than to have a supervisor from that district. So I think they have a very good candidate, even though she's getting a late start. I think that they've got a real good shot there. Number 8, I got Ron Robinson, who, that's a Macomb County seat that I put a little lower on the list just because Macomb County has been trending Republican, and the candidate is a little unproven. Katrina Mineta. She's never run for office before, hasn't held office before, but the Democrats have been pushing back on me on this one, saying that she is a community organizer and she has had success in the past rallying people behind her. And so they think that she's going to be a very good candidate. But we'll see. Robinson's able to tout that the Selfridge Air Force money is coming in from the feds and the state, thanks he can argue to his leadership. So, maybe that's good enough. I don't know, but I have that 8 on my list just because, again, the base numbers don't look great for Republicans. And I should say that for all these races. I mean, the reason why they're on the list isn't because the incumbents themselves aren't doing a good job. It's because the base numbers in a national environment like this are very bad for them. And for the passive voter out there who's only voting based on what they're feeling nationally and their discontent with Trump and their own personal financial situation, that overrides, in many cases, the work that these people are doing. So I don't want to say any of these people are doing a bad job. As far as I can tell, none of them are doing a bad job. It's just the political environment is one that it just is very difficult for them to overcome. but can be overcome, I suppose, with some very hard work. Folks like Brandon Dillon were able to survive wave elections because he worked his tail off. But it's very, very tough, and the odds are actually stacked against you. The 9th district I have in here, I kind of put in here as more of a placeholder and more of a statement as opposed to believing that this district is vulnerable necessarily, and that's the 29th district. This is also a downriver district. It's held by Jim DeSena. The Democrats don't necessarily have some really strong candidates in this district. In fact, both of the candidates who are running here are, I would say, are pretty weak. But this is the type of district, whether it's the 29th or whether it's the 86th, whether it's the Timmy Beeson district in the 96th, that you really don't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that Corvo seat or the Brown seat or Espinoza or Gary McDowell when you wake up and you're like, oh my God, who in the heck is this guy? Now he's going to be state representative. That's the type of seat that we could be looking at. John Kuhn Tom Kuhn in the 57th district. Another one of those seats where you're like, oh my goodness, where did this come from? And to that point, people like Matt Hall, the Speaker of the House, and Ann Bolin in the 49th district, they're not in rock solid Republican districts. It's not like they are operating with a 65% Republican base. They too could have a challenge, and it's something they got to look out for.
100% on that, and especially like you mentioned Matt Hall, the candidate there that the Democrats have is an extraordinary out of central casting candidate for that district. A military background, great looking family, professor in the aviation school at Western Michigan University. It's in a year like this, I mean, that's a quality candidate in a district that is not, it's light red. It's by no means a solid red district.
Kyle, thanks for that. Have you have any insights that you could offer on the state Senate? I know you spent a lot of time on the House. Any insights on the state Senate?
Yeah, and I think that the Democrats there have very good prospects again. The Republicans' number one target has been Kevin Hertel, who is over in St. Clair Shores. But Senator Hertel's done a very good job of taking care of, I think, his constituent work and on the policy front and staying active in his district. He benefits from the Selfridge money coming in just as much as Representative Robinson benefits from him. And unlike I think the Robinson seat, I don't know if the Republicans got the candidates they wanted to run against Hertel. The Republicans do have a candidate who's very untested, is going to be very green in that district. I don't know if I'm just not convinced that they have the candidate there that they're going to need to be successful. Now, they do have a very good candidate in this 13th Senate district, Ryan Berman, who has been a state representative, ran for attorney general. He does have a history in being very successful in competitive races. And I think that of all the recruits, that one is the best. He's going to be going up against Sean Carlson, who has been active in Democratic administrations in the past. He's actually run for the state Senate before. It was many, many years ago. But he does have a fairly good resume. He's been involved in Oakland County government as of late as the deputy executive. So he's well known, but Brian Berman seems to be a fairly good politician. But again, in a wave election year like that, he is swimming upstream. I think the most challenged incumbent at this point is probably Mark Huizenga in the Grand Rapids area. He's going up against the state representative, Carol Glanville, who knows a little something about winning upset elections. She was the candidate back when there was an open seat when Huizenga actually left office to become a state senator. She ran for that open seat against that Robert Regan guy, who was probably one of the most flawed candidates I think I've seen in an election where the party was supposed to win. Carol Glanville pulled off a pretty strong upset against Regan. So she knows a little something about it, and I think she's going to give Heising a real strong run in that seat, and probably, if she pulls off an upset, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. But if she's successful, you also got to look at the 9th district with Mike Weber. This is a district in Rochester that is always it's been trending Democrat. It always seems to be on the cusp, and with more funding back in 2002, maybe Padma Kupa wins that if she has a little bit more money. Weber only won by 4 percentage points, outperforming the president and the U.S. Senate candidate. That's also an area where Alyssa Slotkin's fairly popular. But anyway, Weber, I think, is in trouble. The difference between the Senate and the House, though, I got to say, guys, is the number of seats in play are significantly fewer. And, the Senate's got 38, the House has got 110. You can say, well, of course. But really, once you get past those 4 that I mentioned, you got to dig a little deeper to find real districts at play. I mean, you could say maybe that Muskegon seat where John Bumstead is sitting is a possibility. But I feel like the Republicans did a good job in recruiting on that one. They got Kim Cole, the Mason County Sheriff, very, very early to lock in on that one. There's no real primary of note there. The one guy on the ballot there is kind of a perennial candidate, not super serious. So, the Republicans did a good job in that district getting someone. So it's really, I think those 4, even though we're looking at a wave election, I think it's really those 4 that we're looking at. But, who knows, in a seat like that Muskegon one I mentioned, where the base numbers aren't super good for Republicans. Again, it's under that 57% that I mentioned earlier. It's got to be considered in play.
Yeah, I think, Kyle, your analysis is amazing. I mean, these. I would have said certainly in the maps that I drew, I knew the districts better than anyone, but these better than anyone I've talked to, and I think your rankings and analysis are spot on. Just before the thought leaves my mind with regard to that Muskegon and then Lakeshore district that's held by John Bumstead, that the Lakeshore counties have shown a tendency to flip over the last 30 years. I mean, that was the Dan Scripps area. Going way back to Bilbo Beer, there was competitive races up in there, and so it's it wouldn't surprise me. I think I agree with your rankings. There's the top 4, and then there's like a pause, and there's that one. But the Dems seemingly have a good candidate there. I actually met her at an event. I was impressed with her. It sounds like she's running a good campaign, but the Republicans have a good recruit with the sheriff.
Yeah, Rebecca Amadon is the person that you mentioned there. She was a staffer, actually, for Terry Sabo, who is a state representative from Muskegon, adjunct professor at Mid-Michigan Community College. So, we'll see what she can do. She's been active in the party locally in Mecosta County. She's done work with homeschoolers and public school students through the nonprofits that she's worked at. So, it's definitely possible. That's for sure. And it's one of those districts that you do have to kind of consider in a wave election. It may not, there's potentially others out there that, we're looking on election day and thinking, who the heck is this person?
Right, exactly. It would seem, I mean, going through your analysis, when you say of the 10 state house races most likely to flip, 9 of them are Republican incumbents or Republican held. When Republicans are playing that kind of defense, the math, when you just look at the way that these battles for control, the caucus battle, that the way they go, the party that has the most offense wins control of the chamber. It's just the way it's always been. And if the Republicans were able to push back on these if the wind starts to change. I just don't see it in the next 4 months that we're going to get something that substantial that completely turns the political climate around in a way that's going to change this trajectory. And so it to me, it's not a question of if the Democrats will regain the House. It's just a question of how many seats they will gain and how big that majority is. Is it a kind of a narrow 57, 58, 59, or do they kind of get a steroid boost like the Republicans did in 2010, 2012, 2014, where they were up into the mid 60s? And it's this the kind of year where that could happen.
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, but one of the dangers that the Democrats face is playing too large of a field. And I think that was one of their downfalls last year, actually, is that instead of just counting to 56, they got stars in their eyes and started shooting for higher and started spending money, a lot of money in Metro Detroit on broadcast TV that could have been spent maybe more granularly in some other districts and that they could have saved. I don't know if more money on the ground could have saved people like Jim Hodsma. I don't know. But, you know, it does raise the question. You know, they need 56 to get majority. Obviously, you want more than that because it's hard to operate with a 56 person majority, but that's got to be the goal for them, and to not get too excited about seats like Matt Hall's seat and Ann Boland's seat. You know, if it happens, it happens, but it almost has to happen organically. Because if, you know, you don't have unlimited money, to the Republicans' credit, they do have a good financial base to operate from, both on the Senate and the House side. So they will have resources that they're willing to soak into their incumbents. So I see them, they'll probably just let the 55th district go and then focus entirely on folks like Riley Lintine, Ron Robinson, Carl Bonack, Steve Frisbee, because if they feel like if we just lose one of them or even two of them, we should be, if they lose two of them, then, you know, then we're down to 55. So if they just lose one of them, they could still keep a 56 seat majority. And I'm sure that's what their focus is going to be on. I'm sure that they're not going to play a lot of offense, but I will say number 10, I should probably say number 10 here on my list is I went to the state house district that is going to be open in southern Wayne County, northern Monroe County. It's the 35th or 31st district currently held by Representative Reggie Miller. They do have a candidate there. The Republicans have a candidate named Laura Perry who got a very early start. She's a soccer mom, seriously a soccer mom, who is actually has coached soccer. She's a small business owner. She raised a lot of money right off the bat, and it's probably their best recruit, I would say. Whereas the Democrats, they do have a good candidate, Shannon Dare Wayne, who is an official in Saline, but she's actually, or Milan, I'm sorry, Milan City Council member, but she's actually a late fill-in of the candidate that they had there who had run before, or I'm sorry, Reggie Miller had kind of been on the fence about whether she was going to run. She dropped out kind of late, but I don't know, maybe Shannon Dare Wayne was kind of always in the mix, but she's getting a late start by comparison. So if Republicans are able to kind of turn things around, if the Straits of Hormuz open up, if gas falls to 330, if Trump can declare a win in Iran and things flip, I mean, you know, there's all sorts of possibilities that could happen. If things kind of turn around, you know, this would be the number one opportunity for the Republicans to flip, would be this 31st district.
Yeah, I imagine in you know, a lot of our focus when it comes to the legislative districts ignores the goings on nationally, internationally. But, you know, the now already infamous clip of just 2 days ago where Donald Trump saying, "I love high prices, I love the inflation," you're going to see that ad nauseum in districts for the state house and see the Democrats tying the Republican incumbents or challengers to that economic philosophy in this time of the highest economic anxiety in in the post-World War II America. I mean, that's just a fact that right now the economic anxiety nationwide is at its highest measured level in 80 years. And it's, since the end of the Great Depression, and people are worried about their personal finances, their future, their economic future, and that of their kids and their families. And that's going to, I think, be the overarching context that sets the tone for the fall. And Mark and I talked about this last week. One of the messages that we haven't seen a lot of yet, but I think we're going to start to see more of from Republicans, from federal offices to statewide offices down to the legislature, is an emphasis on crime. Even though violent crime rates are dropping dramatically in Michigan and in Detroit, that's an issue that I've spent lots of years doing this, demagoguing the crime issue to scare the hell out of on the fence suburban voters. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this year.
Yeah. And probably a lot of stuff on transgender kids as well. I don't know if they're going to focus on the sports aspect as much, but I think that what we saw from the Cleveland Clinic this week and them saying they're going to take a 20-year pause on doing any type of transgender work on kids will have an impact. And I think something that the Republicans will try and take advantage of for sure.
Yep, the culture wars will be back. Immigration, crime, trans, among other things. You're absolutely right, both of you.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I mean, I'm stunned at how much it's been fascinating. The conversation has flown by. I didn't realize we'd, held you for this long, and we appreciate you taking the time. Always great to have you as a guest. We refer to MIRS many times a day in all that we do and that we talk about here. You're a great source of news and information. You have a great column in the Lansing City Pulse. Folks, be sure to follow Kyle on socials at MIRS, subscribe, and check him out everywhere you can find him online.
That's our time for this week. A reminder for you to check out our partner podcast, Greed, Grifts, and Grabs, the Trump Corruption Chronicles, hosted by our terrific producer, Walt Sword. It's available exclusively on our YouTube channel. The latest episode focuses on how Trump is turning the 250 celebration into another Trump profit center with the help of more than $60 million in taxpayer money.
I'm not even going to try to say Trump Corruption Chronicles 3 times real fast. That's definitely a tongue twister.
Let's call it quits because I've had enough.
If the Republic is still standing, Mark and I will be back next week. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
The Republic, if you can keep it, is a presentation of Michigan citizens for a better tomorrow.